Hello everybody. Welcome to the subject electromagnetic waves and transmission lines. In this video, I am going to discuss about Poynting vector. Energy can be transmitted from one point to another point by means of electromagnetic waves. The rate of flow of energy in an electromagnetic wave is described by a vector S called Poynting vector. This Poynting vector represents instantaneous power density vector associated with the electromagnetic field at any given point. That is, Poynting vector is instantaneous power per area. The direction of Poynting vector is the direction of the wave, and also it can be defined as is the cross product of the vectors electric field and magnetic field. The direction of power flow at any point is normal to the both electric field and magnetic field vectors. So, mathematically it is represented as S is equal to E cross H, whose units are watts per square meter. Here, the magnitude of Poynting vector represents the rate at which the energy flows through a unit surface area perpendicular to the direction of the wave propagation. So, in order to obtain how much amount of power is transported from one point to another point, it can be obtained from Maxwell's equations, which are taken in a differential form. For this, now let us start with considering a Maxwell equation in a differential form. So, let us consider a Maxwell equation which is derived from Ampere's law. That is, del cross H is equal to J plus dou D by dou T, where T is nothing but electric flux density, which can be written in terms of electric field intensity. That is, D is equal to epsilon into E. Substitute for D value here, which is, replace this D value with epsilon into E. Now this expression becomes like this. So now rearrange this expression like this. J is equal to del cross H minus epsilon into dou E by dou T, as epsilon is nothing but is the permittivity of the medium, which is constant. Now multiply this expression by electric field intensity or electric field vector quantity. So we get E bar dot J is equal to E bar dot del cross H minus E bar dot epsilon dou E by dou T. Now according to vector identity, divergence of curl of any two vectors can be written like this. Using that vector identity, now divergence of curl of a two vectors, that is E cross H, is nothing but equal to, it can be written as H dot curl of a vector minus E bar dot curl of a vector, right? So that is divergence of E cross H is equal to H bar dot curl of a electric field vector minus E bar dot curl of a magnetic field vector. Now substitute for E bar dot del cross H in this equation. Now the expression becomes like this. But here when you observe del cross E, this is a Maxwell's second equation which has been derived from the Faraday's law, where it is defined as del cross E is equal to negative time derivative of magnetic flux density, where magnetic flux density is nothing but equal to mu into H. So now substitute this value in for curl of E. So now this expression becomes like this. Now in this equation, where H bar dot dou H by dou T and E bar dot dou E by dou T can be written like this, half into dou H square by dou T, and E bar dot dou E by dou T can be written as half into dou E square by dou T. So now in equation 2, you substitute these two values, then the expression becomes like this. You have to write the expression like this. Now what you are going to do is you apply volume integral on both sides of this equation. So you observe the equation, look at this equation. After applying the volume integral, the expression is like this. You observe the last term here, right hand side term. Here volume integral of divergence of E cross H. Here the integration is there and differential operator is also there. So now what you are going to do is you apply a divergence theorem to this term. The divergence theorem is it converts the volume integral into surface integral. So volume integral of del dot E cross H can be written as surface integral of E bar cross H bar dot ds. Okay, where S is the closed surface bounding the volume V. Okay, so now on rearrangement of this expression, finally volume integral of E bar dot j dv is nothing but equal to negative time derivative of volume integral of half into mu h square plus half into epsilon h square minus surface integral of E bar dot h bar dot ds. So now let us see what does each term indicates. Here volume integral of E bar dot j bar dv. This indicates this is the dissipated power due to ohmic losses, or you can say ohmic power dissipation. And second term here, half mu into h square. It indicates that energy stored in the magnetic field, and half epsilon e square indicates energy stored in the electric field. So this is the total energy stored in the magnetic field and electric field. Okay, so this entire term indicates the second term entire term indicates rate of decrease in energy stored in the electric and magnetic field. Because because of this negative sign here, it says rate of decrease in energy stored in electric and magnetic field. So minus this right hand side term, last term, indicates the total power leaving the volume. The total power leaving the volume. So that indicates, because the negative sign indicates here the total power leaving the volume. So the entire expression, this entire expression, which is represented in mathematical form, is called a Poynting theorem. This mathematical form of expression is called a Poynting theorem. Let us see the significance of each term here. So the first term, as I told you, volume integral of E bar dot j dv represents the rate at which the energy is being dissipated. Okay, this is generalization of Joule's law. And first term on the right hand side, this is negative time derivative of volume integral of energy stored in the magnetic field plus energy stored in the electric field, represents time rate at which the stored electric energy and magnetic energy is decreasing within the volume. And the second term of the right hand side indicates the rate at which energy is escaping or leaving the volume V through a closed surface S. If it is a positive, if there is a positive value here, suppose if it is a if there is a negative sign here, it indicates that the power is entering into the entering into the volume. So this follows from the law of conservation of the energy. So the quantity, hence the quantity E cross H on the right hand side of the equation is known as Poynting vector as measured in watts per square meter. So if you want to calculate, the Poynting vector is nothing but the power density per unit area. S is equal to E cross H. So on integrating this cross product, or on integration of this Poynting vector over a closed surface, gives the net power flowing out of the surface. So if you want to calculate the total power flowing out of the surface, closed surface, then you have to integrate the Poynting vector over a closed surface. So the units for this net flow of the power through the surface is watts. Okay, this is according to the Poynting theorem. This is about Poynting vector. So now let us see the applications of a Poynting vector. So first let us see the first application, that is to calculate the power flow for a plane wave using Poynting theorem. So generally the electromagnetic wave or uniform plane wave will be propagating with a velocity v is equal to 1 by root of mu into epsilon, and the total energy density due to electric field and magnetic fields is given by half into epsilon e square plus mu into h square. This is the total energy density of an uniform plane wave which is propagating with a velocity v is equal to 1 by root mu into epsilon. Now rate of flow of energy per unit area is can be obtained as P is equal to half into epsilon e square plus mu into h square into velocity of a uniform plane wave. So now this expression where can be rewritten like this. This expression can be rewritten like this. That is epsilon into root of mu by epsilon e into h. That means this expression is obtained from the relation between electric field and magnetic field. Here I am assuming that uniform plane wave is propagating through the free space medium. Then the intrinsic impedance of the medium, free space medium, is given as root of, or a lossless medium is given as root of mu by epsilon. So this E square can be written as E into E, where one electric field, quantity electric field can be written as h eta into h, because E by h is equal to eta. Here eta is the intrinsic impedance of the medium. So E will be equal to eta into h, where eta is nothing but equal to root of mu by epsilon. And here h square can be written as h into h, and h is written in terms of electric field intensity, that is h is equal to E by eta. You can see here, I am giving the relation E by h is equal to root of mu by epsilon is nothing but equal to eta, which is the intrinsic impedance of a lossless medium. So now the expression becomes like this on simplification. Here velocity v is replaced by 1 by root mu into epsilon, and finally you get the expression p is equal to e into h. So hence, since we know that the electric field and magnetic field are always perpendicular to each other and perpendicular to the direction of flow of the power. So hence this P is equal to E into H is just a magnitude. If you want to write in terms of a vector, P is equal to E cross H. So it is satisfying the Poynting theorem. Now let us see the second application. Show that the power flow along a concentric cable is the product of voltage and current by using Poynting theorem. So look here, now consider a concentric cable here, that is an inner conductor having a radius A carrying a current in the positive z direction. Let me assume it is carrying in the z direction, and the outer conductor with the radius B carrying the current in towards the negative z direction. It is the outward flow, and here in the inner conductor it is in the inward direction. Now between the two conductors a magnetic field will be produced. That means the magnetic field will form a circles and enclosing the current carrying conductor, inner conductor, that is in the form of a circles about the axis. So by applying the Ampere's law to this cross sectional area, that is the magnetic field around the closed path is equal to the current enclosed by this closed path. Okay, the current enclosed by this closed path. Okay, the magnetic field encloses the total current flowing in the concentric cable. So H is constant here. Now the total circumference of the closed path, line integral of dl, will be equal to 2 pi r, where r is the radius of this concentric cable, which will be varying from A to B. Now the magnetic field H will be equal to I by 2 pi r, where r is the radius of this circle being considered. Okay, so in the vector form I can write it as H is equal to I by 2 pi r a phi. It's the phi direction. That means here I considered a cylindrical coordinate system, because this concentric cable is in the cylindrical form. If I assume that the axis of the cylinder is along z direction, then this cross-sectional area is perpendicular to z direction. That means this cross-sectional area lies in the phi plane. The direction of the magnetic field is along phi direction. So I take in the vector form, H is equal to I by 2 pi, or the H is, this is the magnitude of the electric field vector along phi direction. Okay, is that clear? Now the electric field will be radially outward. So how the electric field of lines is drawn? From it is drawn between radially outward. That is, the electric field of lines are drawn radially from inner conductor to outer conductor in the outward direction, that is perpendicular to the magnetic field. So by Gauss law I can write it as E is equal to, for a concentric cable it is directly derived, E is equal to Q by 2 pi epsilon R. Now voltage between the two conductors can be obtained by using the expression V is equal to line integral of E bar dot dl, as we studied earlier. So the distance, that is line integral, the line is varying from A to B. You are measuring the voltage between the two conductors, right, which is varying from A to B. So integral from A to B E bar dot dr, which is equal to, you substitute E is equal to Q by 2 pi epsilon R. So after simplification you get Q by 2 pi epsilon natural logarithm of B by A. Okay, so here, and therefore the electric field intensity, we already know that the electric field intensity is equal to Q by 2 pi epsilon R. So this can be written as V by R in terms of voltage. So V by R natural logarithm of B by A. So this electric field vector in a vector form you write like this, with the magnitude V by R into natural logarithm of B by A along radial direction. Since the direction of the electric field is along radial direction, the unit vector is represented as AR bar. So the Poynting vector is given as P is equal to E cross H. So now taking only the magnitudes, that is P is equal to E into H, you get the value of P is equal to the power flow of the power is equal to Vi by 2 pi into natural logarithm of V by A into 1 by R square. Now total power flowing along the cable is obtained by integrating this Poynting vector over a surface area of the cable. So here you substitute for E cross H, okay, E cross H, or a surface area, which is the cross sectional area is perpendicular to z direction. So ds is replaced by 2 pi into r dr, where r is varying from A to B. So on simplification you got the total power flowing along the cable is the product of voltage and current. It is proved. Okay. Now let us discuss about another important parameter, surface impedance. As I told you, when the wave is propagating along, when the wave is incident onto the surface of the conductor, no wave will be penetrated into the perfect conductor if it is a perfect conductor. Only the flow of the current is confined to only to the surface of the conductor. Okay, here. So then what is the impedance, surface impedance of a conductor? So let us see here. See, at high frequencies, when the wave falls over a conductor, the current flows and this current is confined almost entirely to a very thin sheet at the surface of the conductor. So here the amount of the surface current depends upon the impedance of the surface. So hence the surface impedance is defined as is a ratio of surface impedance denoted by Zs is defined as the ratio of tangential electric field strength at the surface of the conductor to the surface current density that flows as a result of incident wave. Okay. When the wave is incident upon the surface of the conductor, only a small amount of a field intensity is observed by the surface of the conductor. Okay, so hence it results in the flow of the current along the surface of the conductor. So now the surface impedance is defined as tangential electric field strength at the surface of the conductor to the surface current density. Okay, so here let us see here. Now if the conductor is a flat with its surface at y equal to 0 plane, if I consider the surface of the conductor at y equal to 0 plane, okay, at y equal to 0 plane, then the current distribution in the y direction, here you can see the current distribution in the y direction will be j equal to j naught into e to the power of minus gamma y. So J naught is the magnitude and the current is distributed along y direction. So it is exponentially distributed along y direction. Okay, where J naught is the current density at the surface, which is related to the tangential electric field. Tangential electric field, where J naught will be equal to sigma into E tan. So here, if you assume the thickness of the conductor plate to be larger than this depth of penetration, or you call it as skin depth, so that there is no reflection from the back surface of the conductor occurs. So the surface current density becomes Js is equal to, so you have to integrate from, you assume that the surface of the conductor is of infinite in length. The current is distributed along y direction at infinite distance. So the integral becomes 0 to infinity j into dy. You substitute for j equal to j naught into the power of minus gamma y, which is equal to j naught by, you get gamma. So now substitute this surface current density in the surface impedance expression. You get surface impedance is equal to gamma by sigma, where gamma is a propagation constant, which is given as, for the conducting medium, gamma is nothing but, in general, if it is a general medium, gamma is equal to root of j omega mu into sigma plus j omega epsilon. For the conducting medium, it is approximated to root of j omega mu into sigma. Now, the surface impedance for at the conductor given as gamma is replaced by root of j omega mu, okay, root of j omega mu sigma by epsilon, and this expression becomes like this much. So here root of j is replaced by 45 degrees. So this expression is, its surface impedance will be equal to root of omega mu by sigma at an angle of 45 degrees. So here this is for the conducting medium. The surface impedance is always a complex quantity, and its real part is called surface resistance Rs and imaginary part is called surface reactance Xs. So for a thick good conductor, their magnitudes are the same. You see here, Rs will be equal to root of omega mu by 2 sigma. Xs is equal to root of omega mu sigma, 2 into sigma. Okay, so it is observed that the surface impedance is equal to intrinsic impedance for the conducting medium. So for conducting medium, the intrinsic impedance is equal to root of, here as I show, root of omega mu by sigma. So the surface impedance is equal to intrinsic impedance for the conducting medium, and it is also equal to the characteristic impedance of the thick plane conductor. And it can be shown that it is equal to the input impedance of the thick plane conductor when viewed as a transmission line conducting energy into the interior of the metal. Okay, so here the surface impedance can also be rewritten as Rs is equal to 1 by sigma into delta. Here delta is nothing but depth of penetration, or it is called as skin depth, where it is equal to root of 2 by omega mu into sigma. Okay, so the surface resistance of the flat conductor at any frequency is equal to the DC resistance of the thickness delta of the same conductor. Okay, this means that the conductor having a thickness of very much greater than delta and having exponential current distribution throughout its depth has the same resistance as would a thickness delta of the conductor with the current distribution uniformly throughout this thickness. So it can be shown that the power loss per unit area of the plane conductor is J square into Rs. This is proved in the later session. So let us prove that the power loss in a plane conductor as I mentioned here. This is the power loss. Let us see the proof of this. So power loss in a plane conductor. To find the power loss in the plane conductor, we need to evaluate the normal component of the Poynting vector at the surface of the conductor. So for this, now let us calculate the average or real power flow per unit area normal to the surface. So this is a normal component of the Poynting vector, which is written as Pn is equal to half into real value of E cross H, that is E tangential component of the electric field cross tangential component, complex conjugate of tangential component of the magnetic field. Here, in a good conductor, as we seen earlier, in a good conductor, the tangential components of the electric and magnetic fields are normal to each other, and electric field leads the magnetic field by 45 degrees in time phase. So thus, this can be written as Pn is equal to half into magnitude of E tan into magnitude of H tan cos 45 degrees. Okay, cos 45 is nothing but 1 by root 2. So this expression is written as 1 by 2 into root 2 E tan into H tan. So here now I just write only in terms of magnetic field or only in terms of electric field. We have the relation E by H is equal to intrinsic impedance of the medium. So it can be written as half is equal to 1 by 2 root 2 into, in terms of H, E equal to eta into H, right? So I substituted here, then I got eta into H square, that is intrinsic impedance of the conductor into square of the magnitude of the tangential magnetic field. And similarly, I am going to write in terms of electric field. So H is equal to E by eta, substitute that, you get in terms of electric field, where the intrinsic impedance of the conductor is given by eta is equal to root of omega mu by sigma with an angle of 45 degrees, where m represents it's a metal or a conductor. So now, as I told you, E tan by H tan is equal to eta. Now for good conductors, it is equal to the surface impedance. As I told you, the intrinsic impedance of a conductor is equal to surface impedance. So E tan is equal to Zs. Now I substituted that value here. Now in the case of good conductors, the tangential magnetic field is equal to surface current density. So you substitute for H tan is equal to K. So in the above expression, the fields here H tan and E tan are nothing but they are the peak values which can be converted into RMS values. So now this expression becomes Pn is equal to 1 by root 20 E tan square by Zs is equal to 1 by root 20 Zs into H tan is nothing but equal to surface current density K. So Pn is equal to Rs into K square or Js square. As I told you, K surface current density can be denoted as capital K or Js. Hence, this is the amount of power loss in the conductor. Okay, thank you.